Hi everyone, welcome back to our today's video. Thank you so much for those who have subscribed, and if you're watching us and you have not yet subscribed, kindly subscribe and do not forget to click the notification button in order for you to always be notified every time we upload a new video. So I am Jenny and this is my husband.
I'm Vincent.
Yeah, so today we are going to talk about food security in Boma. And it's going to be a question and answer format. Stay tuned.
Well, let me start by asking you a question. What do the South Sudanese eat? What is their staple food? And what are the food crops that they produce?
Well, I'll say that the staple food for South Sudanese is something that is called kisra and H. H is just the normal loaf of bread, while kisra is like tacos, but not exactly like tacos. It's made of fermented sorghum and wheat flour. It's about, I think, this size.
Yes, it's really huge.
Yeah, and they use them to eat with most of their foods, be it cereals, meat, or veggies. Also, there are those who live near the Nile. Their main economic activity, I'll say, is fish farming. So their staple food is fish. And there are also others who rear cattle. They are nomadic and pastoralists. So their staple food is beef and milk. Well, they do plant food crops such as sorghum, cassava, and maize, okra, groundnuts, bananas, and some vegetables.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Now you ask me a question.
So, tell us what is the current food situation in South Sudan?
Well, South Sudan is a new nation. Therefore, there are certain food security policies that have not yet been put in place and implemented. And I say so because if you look at the agricultural production at the household level, it's still very low. And this is due to the frequent migrations that are caused by lack of peace. And also, I can say because they don't have a national food reserve. So these two factors actually make South Sudan to be still food insecure, I can say. And most of the people are exposed to slight changes in the factors of food production and supply that are caused by maybe weather changes and man-made causes such as violent conflicts. Whenever there is extreme weather conditions that causes dry season or flooding, or the locusts, desert locust invasion like what happened this year, or the fall army invasion like what happened last year, this really exposes the people to hunger situations. And almost, it's a perennial problem. Almost every day there's one or two of these factors that comes into play, and the people always cry out because they don't have enough food, and they have to be given food aid. So when all of these factors come into play, we have a severe national situation, because this is what exactly happened in 2016, 2017, where more than half of the population of South Sudan, so we're talking about 7 million people, faced acute food shortages. It led to so many deaths. More than 70,000 people died, you can imagine. And up to this moment, they are still reeling from the effects of that famine, so that most of the population are still undergoing, poverty to an extreme level. We are seeing 90% of the people are still surviving on less than $1 a day. About 60% of the population is still experiencing severe food shortage. And for the children, about 1.2 million children under the age of 5 years are facing acute malnutrition. So that's just a sneak preview of the food situation in South Sudan. Well, it's time for you to answer my question now. What is the food situation in Boma?
Well, the food situation in Boma. Okay, I'll say most of the tribes in Boma, they are mostly farmers, and they do plant food crops such as sorghum, cassava, and maize. as I have mentioned earlier, and they do not produce enough. I'll say so because of the insecurity and fear that takes place in Boma. Because every time in Boma there is war, and this has made them to produce less and less because they're not sure whether they will harvest their crops. And because you'll find at times when there is war, they are either attacked by their enemies and their crops are destroyed, or they run away before they even harvest. And this has affected food production in Boma, and it has really encouraged them to depend on food aid from the non-governmental organizations.
Okay. Now, shoot your question.
Well, I've mentioned there is a reliance to food aid. How did it come about?
Well, this culture of dependency on food aid has been brought about by so many factors. I can name any five, and the one that has contributed the most is conflict, of course, the violent conflicts, because conflict brings about three main things. It disrupts livelihoods of people, so that people cannot settle down and engage in their economic activities to generate income. The second thing, conflicts bring about an increase in the prices of food due to the market demands, the supply and demand thing. And the third thing, conflict also just reduces the agricultural production, so it leads to shortage of food whenever there's conflicts. So that's the main thing that brings about dependency, because it reduces the food that's available to the people. And so the people have to depend on food from another country, from food aid, basically. The second thing I would say is the over-reliance on oil production. The national government is not prioritizing other sectors of the economy that can help the people to be economically productive and viable, so that they just rely on the sales from oil to run the government, to support the economy. It can provide salaries to people, it can fund certain projects, but most of the people on the ground, they live in rural areas, and so they don't have access to the proceeds from the oil. So this has brought about the death of the agricultural sector in South Sudan. Then the third thing I would say is the international NGOs. They flood the market, or they flood the people with free foodstuffs and household items, and this just erodes the culture of self-reliance and hard work for the people. They don't feel motivated to work hard, because the NGOs will just provide them with food, will provide them with household items, with everything that they need. So this also negates the efforts that the people can put towards food production. Then the fourth thing, the fourth thing I can say is what I can say, a cultural dependency. This is from the historical perspective. This country has been fighting for decades, and so you find that agriculture has been left behind. In Boma, most people actually associate farming with women folk, and the soldiers are given precedent. Soldiers are they are exalted, and farmers are demeaned, because you can imagine your grandfather, your father, and you yourself, you have all been soldiers. So nobody, there's no culture of, there are no cultural values that encourage food production or agricultural activities to be promoted in order to generate food. And so this really hampers the ability of the whole country to feed itself. The fifth one is what I'd call the reverse dependency syndrome. This is where the international NGOs depend too much on providing services to the people to such an extent that they cannot survive on their own. And so they keep on, meandering about the solution. They keep on perpetuating the cycle of, victim mentality in the people, so that they can remain relevant. They have this difficulty with drawing their support from the people, because nowadays the NGO world has become a multi-billion-dollar sector on its own, with the academics. People are studying how to be project managers and how to run organizations from universities. So it's a sector on its own, and for it to be relevant, there always needs to be a problem to be addressed. And so these people find it difficult to extract themselves from the situation, to solve a problem and to move on. And this has led to a situation where data is being cooked, statistics are fabricated, just so that NGOs can remain relevant, so that the government can still get foreign revenue, and relief workers can still get their jobs. And this is a sad situation that brings about the dependency syndrome. So all of these factors come into play, and they make the normal people to lose their work ethic, because there's a lot of food aid, as I've mentioned. They don't feel motivated to work. There's no environment that exalts the farmer, that supports the farmer, and this is the backbone of the new nation of South Sudan. So something needs to be done to address this issue.